Let's review shlokas 182 and 183 in Lalita Sahasranamam. ābālagopa viditā sarvānullaṅghya śāsanā chakrarājanilayā śrīmattripura sundarī chakrarājanilayā śrīmattripura sundarī chakrarājanilayā śrīmattripura sundarī śivā śivaśaktyaikya rūpiṇī lalitāmbikā evaṃ śrīlalitādevyā nāmnāṃ sāhasrakaṃ jaguḥ. Let's take a look at the meanings of the namas in these two shlokas. The first nama here is ābālagopa viditā. So it is split as ābāla, gopa and viditā. Ābālam means including children or even children or from children. So ābāla. Gopa means cowherds. Viditā means known by or perceived by. So ābālagopa viditā means she is someone who is known even by children and cowherds. That means she is accessible to even children and cowherds. So what does this nama signify? It means that she is easy to access. So if you look at the previous namas, we spoke about how you need focused, constant practice in order to know her. And you have to follow one of the 6 paths in order to reach her. And all of those seem very hard to do and they might take a lot of time to do. But if you look at children are not able to understand something very complex because they haven't reached that level of maturity. So children cannot understand complicated things. And if you look at gopa, the cowherds spend all their time with the cattle. They have no time to sit here and think about that ultimate reality. They have enough to do in their daily life and their life is quite complicated. They have to milk the cows, they have to take them for grazing, they have to bathe them, etc. So they have no time. So even if someone is not able to understand these complex things and does not have the time to pursue Lalitha, she is equally accessible to those people as well. And this is what sage Agastya wanted. When he did the pilgrimage and he saw all the people so into their samsara and always pursuing their materialistic urges, he wanted someone who could be easily accessible so that these people can get their worldly enjoyment as well as get to liberation. And that's what Lalitāmbikā is, and that's what this nama says, that she is equally accessible even to children and cowherds, those people who may not be able to understand complex things or do not have the time to pursue. Another way to look at that gopa instead of cowherd, we can also think of gopa as Pashupati. Pashupati is Shiva. So ābālagopa viditā means from children up to Shiva, she is perceived by all. So she is equally accessible to all. So no matter where we are in our maturity or ability to spend time, she is equally available to all of us. The next nama here is sarvānullaṅghya śāsanā. Sarvānullaṅghya śāsanā. Sarva means everyone. Ullaṅghya means to cross, to leap over. Ābālagopa means cannot cross. Śāsanā means commands. So nobody can disobey her commands. That's what sarvānullaṅghya śāsanā means. Her command has to be obeyed by all. Nobody can disobey her because she is Maharajñi. She is the queen of the universe, and therefore it is her laws by which this universe operates, and all of us are subject to that laws and nobody can disobey her laws. The next nama here is chakrarājanilayā. Sri Chakram is also called as Sri Yantram, and that is used in the Sri Vidya practice. It is believed to be a representation of the cosmos, and it is an instrument through which one can attain liberation. And Sri Yantram is considered to be the queen of all the yantras, and that's why it is Raja. Nilayā means stationed or residing in. So Sri chakrarājanilayā means she resides in the Sri Chakram, and it is called as the Bindu. That's where Lalitha is. śrīmattripura sundarī. Śrīmat means auspicious. 3 is the number 3. Puram can be thought of as cities or worlds, and Sundarī means beautiful. So śrīmattripura Sundarī means the auspicious one who is the most beautiful amongst all three worlds. And the Tripuram that we normally refer to actually represents the triads of reality, which is the experiencer, the experienced, and the process of experiencing. So that's called as Triputi. And if you look at us, the subject-object differentiation is a natural way in which we experience this world, right? Because we all have our own identity, and therefore we, the subject, are working with the rest of the world, which is the object, and there is always a process of interaction. And as human beings, all of us have three states of consciousness. One is the waking state, another is the dreaming state, and another is the deep sleep state. And if you see, Tripura Sundari is in all of these states with us. We may not be aware of it, but she is in each of these states, and she is the one who makes our experience beautiful in every single state. And that's why she is called as Tripura Sundari. And there is also something that's beautiful about lalitāmbikā. If you look at the Triputi, it can also be interpreted as known, knower, and knowledge. So that is also the Triputi. And always the knower and the known are different because of the subject-object differentiation. So if you look at someone who goes to a medical school, and they will learn about the cures for all the diseases and the different types of medicines, and then they'll become a doctor. Somebody goes to a law school, they learn about all the laws, and then they'll become a lawyer. So this is the norm of the world, right? So if somebody goes to the medical school, they'll only become a doctor, they won't become medicine. If somebody goes to a law school, they won't become a law, they will not become law, they will become a lawyer. Whereas when we try to learn about Lalitha, and if we start to pursue in this path, then the knower, the known, and the knowledge all collapses, and we will become Lalitha. So that is the height of Lalita Sahasranamam. As we continue this practice, as we know more and more about Lalitha, then we will find that that Lalitha is within us, and that's the most beautiful thing about Lalitha. So by pursuing Lalitha, we will become Lalitha. So that's a very beautiful aspect about her, and therefore she is Tripura Sundari. The next nama here is Shri Śivā. Shri means auspicious, and Śivā is the energy of Śiva, and therefore she is the auspicious energy of Śiva. śivaśaktyaikya rūpiṇī. So just so that we don't think of her just as the energy of Śiva, they're also telling us she is the Śiva and Shakti. Aikyam means union. So she is the embodiment or the union of Śiva and Shakti. So Śiva and Shakti are inseparable. Like fire and heat, water and wetness, a word and its meaning, they're always together. And so Lalitāmbikā is the union of Śiva and Shakti who resides on that Sri Chakram. And the last nama here is Lalitāmbikā. So that union of Śiva and Shakti is called as Lalitāmbikā, Lalita Ambika. And Lalitha has many meanings. Lalitha means someone who's loved. Lalitha means someone who's desired, someone who's cherished, someone who is elegant, someone who's very soft and tender, and someone who's very caring, someone who's joyful, someone who's playful. All of these are the meanings of Lalitha. Ambika means mother. So Lalitāmbikā means loving mother. That's what it means. And you can see there is something so beautiful about this. The Lalita Sahasranamam started with the nama śrīmatā. śrīmatā means auspicious mother. And then the Vagdevis have ended this with Lalitāmbikā, which is also loving mother. So there are 1,000 namas. They could have chosen any nama to introduce Lalitāmbikā to us, but they chose śrīmatā. And they emphasized in the closing that she is Lalitāmbikā, who's the same loving mother. She started as a loving mother, and they're emphasizing that she is loving mother. So we call her as Tripura Sundari, right? And if you think about it, for every child, their mother is the most beautiful, right? It's not the objective beauty, because when the child is hungry, it's the mother who nourishes the child. When the child is sick, it is the mother who nurses it back to health. And when the child doesn't even know why it is crying, it's the mother who comforts. So for every child, their mother is the most beautiful. And lalitāmbikā means elegant or beautiful mother. So Lalitha is none other than selfless love, and that is the biggest lesson that we have to learn. And if we are pursuing Lalitha, then we should also pursue selfless love, and that is the meaning that Vagdevis want to leave with us. And then you can also see they've brought it back to the starting point, so it's all a big circle. And in there, they are telling us about the circle of life. The circle of life means that all of us are interconnected and everything is dependent, and there is always this constant cycle of birth, growth, decay, and death, and again rebirth, right? So this keeps going on and on and on. And if you see, everything in this nature shows us that things are cyclic. If you look at the moon waxes and wanes. And if you look at it, we have a day, we have a night, and they keep coming. And if you look at the waves, the tide comes and goes, right? In all of this, if we are thinking about the waves on the ocean, the waves may come and go, but we should be like the ocean, being able to be still. And that is the whole idea behind it. And therefore, we have to understand that we are all interconnected and everything here is a circle. Therefore, there will be a constant movement. So today, if something is not working for us, our circumstance is not good, we should not lose hope. We should not despair. We should know that that will also change and a better day will come. And today, if everything is going great for us and life cannot be any better than this, then we should know that will also change. And therefore, we should remain humble and not get too proud. And therefore, flowing along with this life and being able to move in that path and being able to accept what comes our way is what will make sure that we are able to remain happy no matter what else is happening outside of us. And borrowing from the Lion King, it's the circle of life and it moves us all through despair and hope, through faith and love, till we find our place on the path unwinding in the circle of life. So that's what the message we should take out of the Vagdevis making Lalitāmbikā the last nama, and which is the same as the Śrīmata. Of course, there is something about Lalita Sahasranamam itself that we can take here. So the first nama and the last nama is the same. So that means the only in a circle, there is no beginning or end. So today is not the end of Lalita Sahasranamam, rather it is the beginning. Now that we know all the meanings of 1000 namas, we are able to better engage with these namas. And in a circle, doesn't matter whichever point you take, you're always at the same distance from the center. And therefore, even if we cannot practice all the 1000 namas, let's pick one nama which resonates with us, which will allow us to process and make sure that we are able to engage with Devi, and through that we will be able to change our perspective towards the world. We'll be able to let go of the conditioning that holds us back in life, and will also be able to let go of all these prejudices that we have that actually are the cause of a lot of our misery. And with that, we can move towards a more fulfilled, contented and happier life. And that's what I want to wish all of you who are listening to this. Namas, and the last line, evaṃ śrīlalitādevyā nāmnāṃ sāhasrakaṃ jaguḥ, means so the Vagdevis sang the 1000 names of Lalita Devi. So we'll look at a story related to the nama Lalitāmbikā. Today I thought I will take a leaf from the book of Vagdevis. So they started with Śrīmata and they ended with Lalitāmbikā, which means the same. So we are going to look at the same story we started Lalita Sahasranamam with, and that is the origination of Lalitāmbikā. So once Sage Agastya went on a pilgrimage, and Sage Agastya was looking at all the people And they were all enveloped in this darkness of ignorance, and they were always running after materialistic urges. And he was very worried and he did not know how to help. And as we all know, Sage Agastya is a Siddhar. And Siddhars are people who have dedicated their life to improving health and happiness of others. So he wanted to help in some way and he didn't know how. At that time, he reached Kanchi and there Vishnu appeared and he told Sage Agastya, Hayagriva will tell you all about this. Go ask Hayagriva. And therefore, Sage Agastya went to Sage Hayagriva and asked, how can these people be helped? And at that time, Hayagriva said, if people want simultaneous attainment of worldly enjoyment and salvation or liberation, then the only way is to worship Lalitha Tripura Sundari. So then Sage Agastya asked, who's this Lalitha Tripura Sundari? How can she be worshipped? And so Sage Hayagriva started to talk about Lalitha and how she came to be. So once upon a time, there was a demon called Tarakasura. And this Tarakasura had a special boon whereby he can only be killed by a Amsa of Shiva, or actually a son of Shiva. And Tarakasura was feeling very invincible at that time because Shiva had gone off into a deep penance. Shiva lost Sati in Daksha's yajna, and after that he went off to do penance. So Shiva did not have a wife and he was not showing any inclination to go marry again because he was doing this penance. Therefore, Tarakasura was in a best place possible. With him being killed only by a son of Shiva, now he is immortal almost. And obviously, feeling so powerful, he became a tyrant and he was torturing everybody. The Devas could not take this anymore and they went to Brahma and pleaded for help. They said, Brahma, what's the way out? Shiva's continuously doing penance and this Tarakasura has become very difficult to handle. Please help us. And so Brahma thought, something has to be done. And the way would be that Shiva has to marry somebody and have a son. So as a first step, they sent Narada to Himavan, and the Himavan had this daughter Parvati, and Narada went and told him how she is the Shakti and she's destined to marry Shiva, and asked Himavan to send Parvati to Himalayas, to Kailasa, so that she can help Shiva and be around. So there is a possibility of Shiva to fall in love with her. So Himavan agreed and he sent Parvati. And so she is now in the Kailasa going about doing all the chores, but Shiva has not woken up from the penance. So now they had to take the second step. Somehow we have to wake up Shiva. Then if he wakes up, he can see Parvati, he will fall in love, they can marry, they can have a child who can come and kill Tarakasura. So then now how to wake up Shiva? So then they made a plan and Brahma called Manmada. And Manmada is the god of love. So Brahma told Manmada, you put one of your arrows. Nobody is immune to the god of love, right? So you put one of your arrows on Shiva, then Shiva will wake up from the penance, and because your arrow hit him, he'll be full of love and will make Parvati stand in front of him. And as soon as he opens his eyes and he'll see Parvati, he'll immediately fall in love with her and job done. So now everybody created this plan, and so Manmada came and all of the people are all assembled and Parvati is standing in front of Shiva, and now Manmada puts his arrow on Shiva. Manmada standing behind Shiva and is putting the arrow. So as expected, the arrow hit Shiva and Shiva did open his eyes, but that's where the plan went in a different direction. So they were expecting Shiva will be full of love and he will look at Parvati with lustful eyes. Instead, Shiva was full of anger and he was looking at Manmada with wrathful eyes. And as soon as he looked at Manmada with anger, and he opened his third eye and he burnt Manmada down. As soon as everybody realized that Shiva was angry, nobody can take Shiva's anger, everybody absconded from that place. And Parvati was still standing there and she felt terribly ashamed. She felt like, she was standing there waiting for someone to accept, and this is all happening. And so she was very ashamed and Shiva disappeared from that place. And then Parvati went back to her house. And then after some time, Shiva came back to Kailasa, and all the ashes of Manmada remained there. Nobody had cleaned it. And then as Shiva came back, he was looking at the ashes of Manmada with so much compassion and softly, gently. And out of the ashes came a boy. And that boy had the qualities of an asura because it came from the fire from Shiva. And therefore he had this asura quality, and they called him Bandasura, and he was a little boy. And as soon as the boy came up, all the ganas who were there immediately said to the boy, Shiva is pleased with you. Go, bow down to Shiva and ask him for some boons. So as soon as the boy bowed down, Shiva said that, you will rule for many 1,000 years, 60,000 years. You will rule for 60,000 years. And he said, what boon do you want? And Bandasura asked that, if anybody tries to attack me, their missiles should not work. Nobody should be able to attack me, which is better than immortality, right? So nobody can attack him at all. So that was great. And Shiva said, okay, granted. So now Bandasura grew up, and now he also became a king, and now he is also torturing everybody because he's an asura, the greed for power, wanting more and more and more, and now he's assured for ruling for 60,000 years. So he became another tyrant, and now Deva's situation became really worse. First they went to Brahma to ask for help from this Tarakasura. Now instead another Bandasura has also come, and everybody is torturing the Devas. So the Devas don't know what to do, and therefore they decide to do a yajnam. And they're thinking, they're also feeling very frustrated and dejected because Shiva is supposed to help them, and Shiva himself did not help. So they don't know who else will help, but they conduct this yajna to see if there is any power that can come to help. But as time passed by and no response, they got very dejected, and they decided to jump into that fire pit itself, the yajna fire pit. They decided to jump into it. And at that time, out of the fire pit came Lalitāmbikā. So she came Deva Karya Samudyata. So she came to help the Devas. And as soon as she came out, everybody was so happy, and they all fell at her feet. And they said, thank you. You came to help us, mother. And, we're being really tortured by this Tarakasura and Bandasura. And Bandasura is simply impossible for us to manage. You have to do something to help us. And therefore, she agreed that she would help them. And therefore, they worshipped her as their queen. And they said, you will be our queen. And they built a beautiful city for her called Srīnagara. And it had her palace was awesome, and it had all the gemstones, and it was a really big palace. And they hailed her as their queen, as the savior. And obviously, someone who's so beautiful, someone who's their queen, she has this beautiful palace, and she needed to have a husband. And at that time, Kameshwara, Shiva came as Kameshwara, and therefore Lalitha and Kameshwara were married. And once the marriage was done, Lalitha decided to go handle Bandasura. So she collected an army of all women, Shakti Sena, and then she went to Bandasura city. His city is called as Shunyaka. So she was going there. In the meantime, Bandasura has two brothers called Visukra and Visanga. And Visukra and Visanga actually live in the outskirts of the city, where in Bandasura's kingdom. And obviously, they'll have all these spies and all that, right? So they heard that there is a female army that is coming to attack Bandasura. And they were very surprised. In those days, women did not go to fight. So they were like, what is this? But regardless, they went and reported to Bandasura. So Bandasura was holding court, and Vishukra and Visanga went to Bandasura and said that, it seems that there is a female army that is coming. And Vishukra found that very funny, and he said, these devas probably have gone out of their mind, and out of all the people they can ask for help, they went and got a bunch of women to come and fight. And it seems that they are led by someone who just came out of a fire pit. She's never fought in any battle. So I don't think we should take this very seriously. And it is enough if we send all the servants who work in our palace to go fight. They themselves can tackle this army. This is not a big deal, so we shouldn't have to worry too much about it. But then Visanga said, no, no, if there is an army that is coming to attack us, we should treat it like a battle. No matter who declares war is a war, so we should treat it properly. So let's send a general. So then they sent somebody called as Durmada along with 10 Akshahinis. So that is a army that comprises of the chariots, the horses, the elephant army, and the foot soldiers. So they sent. And if you see in Lalitha's army, there is all the foot soldiers, obviously. So every army consists of chariots, the horse army, the cavalry, and the elephant army and foot soldiers. So Lalitha was in a chariot, and her chariot is called as Chakrarājanilayā. And she had a prime minister, Mantrini, and she had a chariot, Geya Chakra. And then her commander-in-chief of the army was Dandanatha, and she has Kiri Chakra. And then the elephant's army was managed by Sampatkari, and the cavalry, the horse army, was managed by Ashwarudha. So, and then there are lots of all these Shaktis who are the foot soldiers. So they are all going to the battlefield, and now Durmada is there with his 10 Akshahinis, and a fight ensues, and Durmada is killed by Sampatkari. And then once Durmada was killed by Sampatkari, you all know when the leader of that battle dies, then the battle is done. Right? So then everybody went back, and the Bandasura's army was a little bit surprised. They did not think these women were that good, and they actually killed a good general. But this time they sent Kuranda with 20 Akshahinis, and now Ashwarudha killed Kuranda. And now the battle is becoming a little bit serious, and now they sent 5 generals, Karanka, Kakavasita, Vajradanta, Vajraloma, and Vajramukha. So these people are coming, 5 generals, and each one has 20 Akshahinis. Now there is a huge army that came, and they also had some magical powers, and they brought a snake called Maya Sarpini. The snake's name is Ranashambari, and they brought this, and the snake came into the battlefield, and as soon as it opens its mouth, there are crores and crores of snakes that are coming out, and those snakes are all attacking the Shakti army, and the Shakti army was not able to manage. At that time, Nakuli came on Garuda, and she actually launched a mongoose missile. And these mongooses, there were now crores and crores of mongoose, and they were all fighting with the snakes, and all the snakes were killed. And when all the snakes were killed, Maya Sarpani was really mad, and she attacked Nakuli, and Nakuli gave the Garuda missile, and then the Maya Sarpani was also killed, and then all the 5 generals were killed. Now, the next day, they are sending 7 generals now, and each one has 30 Akshahinis now. And these generals were capable of black magic. And so their army consisted of all the Vedalams and ghosts, right? So they are bringing all these ghosts. And also on top of it, these 7 generals had a very special boon from the sun. Whomever they look at, they will become immobile. They can't even move. So these generals were looking at all the Shaktis, and the Shaktis became immobile. And that was very convenient, right? So they could go fight with them. It became very difficult, and at that time there is an assistant of Dandanatha who's called as Tiraskarini, and she had the missile Anda missile. So Anda means to go blind. So she actually launched that missile on all these generals, and they all became blind. The moment they became blind, obviously they could not see, therefore the Shaktis were released from their state of immobility, and they were able to fight and win over these 7 generals. So now the Bandasura army is really upset, because now they've lost a lot of generals, and they've also sent huge armies, and everybody has suffered defeat. Now they decided that they don't have to play fair. So what they did is, on that day when the battle was done, in the night, Visanga actually took 10 Akshahini's army, and they all put black paint all over their body so that they can be covered. And after sunset, they decided to directly attack Lalitha's camp. And we all know the rules of the battle is after sunset nobody can fight, and you have to only fight in the battlefield. But the asuras were not willing to play by the rules. So what they did is they went to the camp where Lalitha and her army were staying, and they wanted to attack. And the way this camp was is Lalitha was in the Sri Chakraraja, all the Nitya deities are all in the Sri Chakram. She is in the back of the camp. And then all the Shaktis are there. And then in the front, the entrance of the camp, Dandanatha and Mantrini are stationed. So they are guarding there. And what this Vishanga did is he went from the back of the camp to attack. He came to know that Lalitha was in the back. And his plan was that if you hit Lalitha, once the leader of the army is done, then the battle is done. So he wanted to take care of it that way. So what happened is they went and started attacking from the back, and it was pitch dark, and these people are also put all this black paint, so the Shaktis could not see where the arrows are coming from, but there are left and right arrows, and the Shakti army is suffering. They don't even know where to hit at. And one of the arrows actually hit the Chakraraja, and the fan was broken. So Lalitha's chariot was hit by that. At that time, all the Nitya deities came to the aid, and immediately there is one Nitya deity called Vahnivasini, and she's the one who's responsible for the movement of the sun and the moon. So she immediately brought the sun out, and therefore it became like day, and now all the Shaktis could see, and they could see where the army was, and so they started to attack. And therefore, once it became bright, then Vishanga's army retreated and they ran away. Now, suddenly it became morning, and Dandanatha and Mantrini were in the front, and they were not even aware of what's going on. And so they came here and they realized what had happened, and they felt very bad. They thought they had not protected Lalitha. So they felt like they missed to do their job well. At that time, Lalitāmbikā said, no, don't worry about it. I think we should have some protection for this camp, given that these asuras are not playing fair. So she called Jwala Malini and she said, put a ring of fire around our camp so that nobody can enter our camp. So Jwala Malini put a ring of fire. Now with all of this, they decided next day morning to go and fight. And at that time, Lalitāmbikā has a daughter called Bala. And Bala was looking at all of this, and she saw how these asuras behaved, and she was very angry. And Bala is someone you have to play fair. She's very just. And so she got very upset that these guys were not playing by the rules. And so she said, I want to come to the battlefield. And then everybody said, no, you're only 9 years old. What if something happens to you in the battlefield? You don't have to come. You stay here. We'll take care of it. But Bala was not having any of it. She said, I am coming to the battlefield. And so Bala went to the battlefield. On that particular day, the 30 sons of Bandasura came to the battlefield. And now Bala is fighting with the 30 sons of Bandasura, and with a single arrow, it became 30 arrows, and it killed all the 30 sons of Bandasura. Now Bandasura is really upset, and he wants to take revenge because he's lost all his sons. So he is really angry. And so he's thinking what to do about it. And in the meantime, Vishukra, who has the magical powers, decided that he has to do something because this army is very strong and they're fighting without giving up. So what he did is he made a dejection yantra. It's called as Vigna yantra. So he made that yantra. And now remember, there is a ring of fire around the camp. So he can't come inside the camp. What he did is from outside, he just threw it inside the camp. So that night, the dejection yantra fell in the camp. And everybody was subject to that dejection yantra except for Dandanatha and Mantrini and Lalitāmbikā. Everybody succumbed to that dejection yantra. So what did it do? It made everybody lose hope. And they were all, in the morning when Dandanatha and Mantrini said, okay, we have to go for the battle today, they're all saying, why should we fight? What's in it for us? If the Devas don't like Bandasura, why should we be fighting? Why should we help Lalitāmbikā? So they all are dejected. Now, Dandanatha and Mantrini don't know what to do. And so they reach out to Lalitāmbikā. And at that time, Lalitāmbikā closed her eyes and thought of Kameshwara. And as soon as she thought of Kameshwara, Ganesha manifested. And Ganesha actually destroyed the Vigna Yantra. And as soon as the Vigna Yantra was destroyed, all the Shaktis got their energy back and they were all ready to go fight in the battle. So then, further, the battle continued. And then Vishukra was not done with just the dejection yantra. While during the battle, he also threw a thirst missile. And once he did the thirst missile, all the Shaktis were very thirsty and they were not able to fight. At that time, Sura Sindhu was called, and Dandanatha called him, and he was showering with liquor rains. And so everybody drank that, and then they all got over their thirst and they were ready to fight. And that's why liquor was allowed from that time, as a giving gratitude for the help that the liquor god did. And then the battle continued, and Mantrini killed Visanga, and Dandanatha, who's also Varahi, killed Vishukra. Now, with Vishanga and Vishukra gone, now Bandasura himself came to the battlefield, and Bandasura and Lalitha started to fight. So this is a fight that went on for 12 hours. And remember, if somebody tries to attack Bandasura, then the missile will not work, no weapon will work. And therefore, Lalitha's strategy was to wait until Bandasura attacks her. So that way she is only doing in defense and not attacking first. So that's why if you see in Lalitāmbikā, in Lalita Sahasranamam, it will say Astra Pratyastra Varshini. So she is giving the thing in return. So then Bandasura throws a missile of darkness, and Lalitha threw a missile of the sun. And then Bandasura threw the missile of god of death, and then she put the missile of Mrityunjaya. And then Bandasura put Sarvasura Astra. That means all the Dasavatara, all those asuras who were killed, they all came back. And then Lalitāmbikā put the Narayana Astra, and then all the Dasavataram Narayanas came, and whole thing was happening again. And then she put the Mahapashupastra, and with that the Bandasura's army was destroyed. And then she put the Kameshwarastra, which destroyed Bandasura and his capital Sunyaka. With that, Bandasura was killed, and all the gods praised Lalitāmbikā, and they all thanked her, and she blessed everybody. And at that time, Rati, who is the wife of Manmada, came and she prayed to Lalitha. And therefore, Lalitha is very compassionate, and therefore she revived Manmada, and she said that only Rati can see Manmada. And that's how Lalitāmbikā originated, and this is the story. And you can see that in the first few shlokas, it talks about the Geya Chakra, Giri Chakra, and the entire battle is all described in Lalita Sahasranama. So if you look at this, who is this Bandasura? And obviously we spoke about an Asura, but this is a Bandasura who resides in all of us. If you see, Bandasura was none other than Manmada. He is the god of love, and he is responsible for creation. Yet, when he had this reincarnation as Bandasura, he completely forgot that he is god of love. He got consumed with greed, and he got consumed with the need for power, torturing everybody. Right? And this is this thing that happens to all of us also. If you see, all of us, and the way Advaita Vedanta says, it is just that one reality that's manifested into every single form. And we know that one reality is selfless love. But the greed for more, because we think of ourselves to be a separate identity, the greed for more is constant for us, and therefore we forget to become that source of selfless love. And that is the root cause of all the miseries that are happening in our lives. And now when we chant Lalita Sahasranamam and direct our senses towards Devi, Devi will come with her entire Shakti Sena, kill that Bandasura called greed and need for power, need for approval, need for validation, etc. in us, and then install herself in our heart, which is none other than selfless love. And that is the true path to happiness. That's all for today. Thank you.